This is Jay, Channel's Questionable Behavior, and just to follow up on some of the challenges going on in California after the wildfires. So, rent gouging is the latest trouble that adds insult to injury for the survivors of these fires. So, in my opinion, and I really think it can get done, is for the government to actually put some stipulations in place, as I alluded to in a previous video, for vouchers for folks that have been burned out of their homes. Do not let the apartment complexes and the Airbnb people take advantage of these people. There are things that you can put in place. Number one, a voucher system. Number two, future tax credits. Number three, something other than letting these folks fend for themselves. It's ridiculous.
While thousands of displaced families are struggling to find shelter, rents skyrocketing.
My son keeps asking me when are we going to stop moving, and I don't have an answer for it.
After the Eaton fire destroyed her family's Altadena home, Erica Lee telling our Jacqueline Lee she's seen the price gouging firsthand.
How quickly are these listings getting taken off the market?
I've reached out to a couple places, and a lot of them have already been taken. And one of them that I applied for upped the rent $1,000 an hour after I applied.
That's unacceptable.
District attorney demanding it stop.
So not only are you going to be looking at criminal penalties, you will be looking at civil penalties. You will be publicly shamed.
How about putting something in place so you don't have to go through that whole process of tracking down all these, people who are price gouging, and just put something in place that controls it. So if they are trying to rent to a survivor, there is a specific amount, something that along the lines mirrors what rent was before the wildfire. Okay, your rent can't be any higher than that. And if that's what you were asking for rent before the fires happened, then why do you need more now? Because you can get it? No, that's unacceptable. You're going to rent to these people, specifically individuals who are survivors of the fire, for the price that you had your property listed for before the fires occurred. What's hard about that? What's hard about that? We're putting measures in place that dictate you cannot ask for any rent higher than what you were renting the property for before the fires. Done. And if you do, there are severe penalties. Don't know what those penalties are at this moment, but you will find out if you try to go beyond what you were asking for rent before the fires. It can't be that difficult. It really can't. And if it is, then, these folks have no hope of trying to overcome this on their own. You got them out there on their own after their home has just been burnt to the ground, fending for themselves in a hostile environment. Hostile. People are raising rents. They don't have money. They barely get. Oh my God. Going through their savings, leveraging their credit, doing everything they can do to survive right now. And oh, by the way, people are going to take advantage of you. It's horrible. Listen to this.
8 children whose elementary schools burned down in the Palisades fire welcomed to new ones.
We're excited. I'm really thankful for Brentwood opening their doors, and I feel like it's been really helpful.
But it's not school that's on their minds, or even the Play-Doh in 9-year-old Charlotte Owens' hands. Her home has smoke damage.
I had to spend my birthday under evacuation. My worries of just like my house burning down just gone to my head. Nightmares of no house and all my stuff being gone. My childhood memories might be gone.
A struggle for so many, David, and critical fire danger remains through tonight with gusty winds, especially in the mountains and bone-dry conditions. But the good news, the conditions are set to improve through the weekend. But then again, next week, fire officials bracing for another Santa Ana wind event.
No 9-year-old should have to think like that. And she's very mature, very well-spoken young lady, highly educated, at 9 years old. But there is no way that any 9-year-old or any child in and around that age should have to be thinking like that. Imagine what their parents are going through. She obviously has some really good parents that are explaining things to her, but she has an opinion that no 9-year-old should have to have. All right, so why don't you get back to me and tell me what you think? The voucher system is the way to go. Lock in pricing. Isn't that what the Constitution does for monopolies? Well, the renters or the rental properties have a monopoly right now for thousands and thousands of people who need somewhere to stay. So why can't something be implemented to take control of pricing? There's a way to do it. There's no way. Give them tax incentives, give them future benefits for not raising the price that offset the price that they would raise, okay, and get right now, get in the future, next year's taxes, the following years. Work it out. Am I the only one thinking about this? I mean, come on. This clip is from a gentleman who has a great deal of real estate experience in Los Angeles. His name is Josh Altman. He sells real estate in all the affluent areas in Los Angeles, like Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Palisades, Malibu. You name it, he has the experience, and his outlook for how these wildfires are going to affect these areas' regeneration is pretty bleak. Time always tells a story. We don't know that his outlook is 100% accurate because he has very little data just yet because it just happened, but he's not thinking it's going to go too well. Let's hear what he has to say.
Vibe, like, do they want to move back to the Palisades? Are they considering moving elsewhere? Do they?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Look, this is hard to say. I strongly believe that 50% of the people who lived in the Palisades are not going to be moving back to the Palisades.
Why?
That's huge. That means that's going to pretty much be a ghost town. And who, especially if you can't get insurance, is going to want to live anywhere that your house, your probably biggest investment, is not going to be covered, especially in a wildfire area. I went to Malibu, okay, when I was out there a couple times. And unfortunately, Malibu and that whole area right off of Pacific Coast Highway, those individuals are trapped by the mountains that just burnt them out, by the way, and the ocean. And it's a very small area in which these folks built their homes. Very beautiful, very beautiful, but very, very condensed and tight. You can't get out in an emergency. God forbid. And unfortunately, I kind of saw this about to happen because of all of the fuel, the vegetation after last year's record rainfall. It was just ridiculous. It was really scary to think that this area is so prone to fire. And even though I went at a time where it was still a lot of moisture in the vegetation, there is just no way that you can clear all the vegetation to avoid a wildfire. It is overwhelming. This town may not ever recover. And a lot of towns that have wildfires never recover. They become ghost towns. And this is one of the most expensive places in the world that could be a ghost town because people can't get their properties insured, can't sell it for what it's worth, and are underinsured, which he alludes to in this interview.
Yeah, and honestly, that number wasn't as big last week in my mind, but after the phone calls that I've been getting, people who are moving to Brentwood, Santa Monica, Bel Air, Beverly Hills, those are going to be the markets that are going to go up because people want to be as close to normalcy as possible.
Yeah.
And those are those towns right around the Palisades.
Yeah.
Those are going to go up, that market, that's where they're going to move. It's going to be too long. You got to realize Palisades is the all-American town, right?
Yeah.
The families are running around. It's like what you picture towns in movies that we used to watch.
Yeah.
These kids that are 5 years old right now that live in the Palisades and go to school, there's a chance that if things don't move fast, it could be 4 to 5 years before they're back there. These kids are now 10. They're going to different schools,
right,
different lives now, so it's tough because picture you living on a street. You're the first house finished, and every other house on the street is in construction.
Yeah.
Think about that. You don't want to do that. You want to wake up every single morning and be reminded of that?
Right, it's traumatic.
I'm negotiating almost a dozen deals right now on land in the Palisades.
Now, a dozen deals is not a lot considering how many homes burned. But keep in mind, you have a whole other community in Altadena and Pasadena that also, actually, I think the losses were bigger there. And they are also going to go through the same thing. This is a tragedy of epic. Epic is a big word to be a four-letter word. Proportions. It's not going to be the same ever. And the fire danger and the risk with insurers, they're not going to insure these properties. So why would you rebuild there? These folks aren't going to get what their land is worth. You know, they're going to take a major loss. And this could happen to any of us. Think about that. What if this happened in your neighborhood? And believe me, it could happen anywhere in the world. Any natural disaster. And I don't know that this was 100% natural, how the fire started. But any natural disaster can devastate and restructure your entire way of life. And that's actually what's happened here, and it's very, very sad. I'm going to finish this interview with his final thoughts, and then we can comment and talk about that in a future video. Thanks so much for listening.
Much faster than I ever thought it would be done. People are already trying to sell their dirt, knowing that they're not going to go back there, to home builders that will then build their house and either keep it or sell it.
So because obviously some people with the WILDFIRE, this could be their second time rebuilding with Malibu and stuff like that.
It's just hard.
Who's going to move to the Palisades, or are we going to see that city kind of?
The calls that I've got have been across the board of, I'm 70 years old. I just evacuated for my last time. I'm out. I'm never going back.
Where are they going?
Okay, that was the Palisades. So they're either going locally, or because of, they're fed up with the regulations and government, they're out. California, and if they're not and they're out of LA, they're going down to Newport Beach.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
I'm getting a huge amount of calls from people who want to move down to Orange County.
Really?
Yeah. Majority of the people, unfortunately, because I've been on the phone with my insurance agent for hours every day.
Yeah.
Majority of the people were heavily uninsured. And that's an issue. And that's why they're not going to go back to the Palisades.
Yeah.
Because in order to recreate the house that they lived in, their dream house,
yeah,
they're not going to be able to afford it.